So no sampling is perfect. We've already taken a look at a couple of them, and they've all got a few errors built in, which we'll kind of summarize in this skill. So what is a sampling error? So even the best random sample, if you make it as random as you can, will always be a little bit different from the true population of interest. And this difference between the sample and the population is called the sampling error. Sampling errors occur every time a sample is used, instead of observing every individual. And if we do observe every individual, it's called a census. So if we use a census, there's no sampling error. But if we do use a sample, there will be a difference, and that's called a sampling errors. And sampling errors are impossible to avoid. What a good surveyor or a good sampler will want, though, is to minimize the error. So why do they occur and how do they occur, since we know they're unavoidable? Let's take a look at the examples that we've got here to analyze that. So if you want to find out about how your class feels about an issue, and the random sample you selected, in the random sample you selected only 3 girls and 7 boys. The class, however, has 50% girls and it's half and half, 50% girls, 50% boys. What kind of sampling error is that? Well, the proportions are different. This is the class proportion, and this is the proportion in your sample. So one way to get a sampling errors is that the proportions of the sample are different than the population. Ideally, you would want a sample that would be 50% girls, 50% boys, so 5 girls and 5 boys. Let's take a look at the next example. You sample 5 students out of your class. Your class has 35 students in it. Well, this is a very small sample, and as soon as you make the samples very small, it's going to increase the error in it. So the problem here is that sample is too small. Let's take a look at the last example. You ask 10 students closest to where you sit. Well, here, in this case, the sample is biased. You're showing favoritism. And that happens a lot when you do a convenience sample or a volunteer sample. So now we know the sampling errors are unavoidable, but how can we reduce them? You can increase the sample size. You can make sure the sample is random and that the sample represents the population. Those are the 3 main things that you need to take care of in order to reduce sampling errors.